face human! Where the hell did you come from?
Long Beach. I gave up my seat.
It's gotta be 20 clicks. Through them?
Can't catch me.
Dead Island 2 is a fantastically fun co-op game built around gorgeous environments soaked in absurd levels of gore. Unfortunately, its best features are hindered by a slightly obtuse co-op system, the lack of crossplay, and a complete lack of even commonplace accessibility options. Thanks to Plyon for providing a code for the game on PlayStation 5. However, everything that follows in this video is my own opinion based upon playing the game, as will be clear enough from the critical comments. Though I would say this video is more first impressions than a full review. That will follow once I've beaten the game if there's more to add beyond what I cover here. Because I've not beaten the game, I'm not going to go too in depth about the story, or having played a couple of hours of a preview mission pre-release at London's WASD Expo, and a further few hours of co-op gameplay after release, I feel like I've got a good measure of the game's strengths and weaknesses in order to talk about them in a video. What I've experienced so far of the game itself has been enjoyable, if not exactly a masterpiece. Go into this game expecting something on a par with a B-movie horror or an amusement park thrill ride, and you won't be disappointed. Dead Island 2 is never going to be a quote-unquote serious game, and it doesn't try to be. The narrative is basic and functional, propped up by a heavy dose of irony from the characters. The world is filled with bright colours, familiar zombie movie archetypes, and bucket loads of gore that very quickly takes you beyond horror into absurdity. Deliberately so, too. This isn't The Last of Us or even Resident Evil 4. We're not meant to be scared here, just crack heads and have fun. The story isn't anything especially original. There are zombies and you're immune.
I'm immune!
Everyone around you is some flavour of walking satire.
Darling, the world needs you. They'll protect them.
Are you for real?
But it doesn't linger past its welcome. The world falls to ruin and your plane crashes in the space of a couple of minutes, thrusting you into the game proper. There's a solid range of characters to choose from, allowing you to decide which one characteristic you wish to sacrifice, as each character has one stat that they only get 1 star for. From there, you get the usual systems of XP leveling, of varying strength and durability across weapons and upgrades you can apply at workbenches. None of these systems are terribly compelling, but nor are they egregious and in the way. They simply let you make your machete electric and get on with killing zombies. Once you get to that, the combat system itself is a lot of fun. Each weapon you pick up has its own power and durability stats, as I've mentioned, giving you a lot of choice in what you employ in any given situation. This allows you to vary your fighting style to suit your surroundings and preferences. Obstacles and objects in the world can be a pitfall or a possibility, allowing you to deal damage as readily as tripping you up. You can throw weapons as well as swing them, if it works in the moment, and you can dodge and repel grabs. But if you let too many of the dead surround you, you can get overwhelmed quickly because you need to manage the space too. I will say that in single player, the balance of this didn't feel quite right and sometimes veered more towards frustration than fun. That certainly wasn't helped by the lack of difficulty settings. With 3 of you in the mix, however, the game hits its stride with the right combination of challenge and cheese. You can take on the cocky demeanour of the slayer you choose and see the zombies around you as part of an especially gory fairground ride that you don't want to get off. The strength of the co-op play is what makes it so odd that this feature is almost buried and that it's limited to others on the same console as you. The fact of getting to the co-op is probably more of a nitpick than a deep critique, but it's worth mentioning. You can't join co-op until you've reached a certain mission, which is fine, but from there you need to initiate a co-op session from the in-game menu, which doesn't pause the game and could see you killed while trying to get your game started. An odd choice to be sure. Christ. Oh well. Sorry love, you're dead. Also worth noting is that you can't jump into missions too far ahead of yourself, which makes sense but stretches out the process of setting up a game as you work out who's made the least progress and getting them to set the session up. Streamlining this process and making it user-friendly would certainly benefit the game, as you'd think the developers would be eager to push us into their game's best feature. Somewhat egregious in the present day is the lack of crossplay. Not only can PlayStation and Xbox or PC players not join the same game, but players on last generation consoles, i.e. PS4 or Xbox One, can join games but can't start them. You can at least play with others on different console generations, as long as you're all PlayStation or all Xbox, so that's something. The developers promise that these things will be addressed in a future patch, which will certainly be welcome, but to not start off with it seems like a massive own goal. The biggest omission from the game by far, however, is accessibility. Despite the advances made in recent years, not everything will have a suite of accessibility settings like The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 or God of War Ragnarok, but there are some things which have become so basic as to be standard at this point. Dead Island 2 has none of them. You can adjust the size and background of subtitles and the field of view, both of which are undoubtedly good, but that's it. There's no full controller remapping on console, there are no options for colorblind or high contrast modes, no closed captions for in-game sounds and audio cues, certainly no text-to-speech beyond what your console might offer on its own anyway, nor anything else you might think of for accessibility. The game has spent more than a decade in development hell and gone through multiple developers, so that may account for the omission. But it's still a shame given that these pitfalls didn't lead to the game being released broken or buggy. In fact, it performs remarkably well. It's just that the design didn't incorporate accessibility, because the game's development began in the twilight of the PS3 generation when no games did, and it remained unfazed by time marching on. There may be a degree to which this can be fixed with future patches. Certainly, if there's a will to, then some options and settings can be added. But there's been no indication from the developers that this would be the case. And of course, since the best accessibility is that baked into the game design from the beginning, there will still be huge shortcomings for the game in that area. Which is a shame, because this is not a bad game by any means, but it's missed a considerable open goal by excluding many from what it has to offer. I'll round out this video by saying that, although I've talked more about the negatives than the positives, I don't hate this game. In fact, I really enjoy it. I bring these things up because they need to be addressed, and ideally fixed where that's possible. With crossplay and the increased inclusion that comes from properly accessible game design, this game would be unstoppable. Because co-op play is a non-stop thrill ride through a world that looks and sounds great, the crunch of the sound design and the strength of the visuals emphasising the absurd levels of gore and just how much fun it is to splash through it and enjoy the irony and cheese of this blood-spattered world. Let me know what you think. Are you playing Dead Island 2 or have you played it? What was your verdict? Let's discuss it in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and consider subscribing to keep up to date with all my content. Like the video that just popped up, which YouTube thinks you should watch next. This is a Patreon and member supported channel, so if you want to become a member and unlock custom badges and emojis, early access to my videos, and your name in the credits, then click the join button below. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.